We'll take first question over here in the front row on your left.
Hey, Mitch. Good morning.
Good morning.
How would you rate the camaraderie on this team? It seems from top to bottom, it's a pretty tight group. They're all in the same direction, like each other, so forth and so on.
I agree. I think we've been fortunate to have a blend of some guys that have been in the program now for some time, as well as bringing in some people that have been great fits. I think obviously Brian and his crew get a ton of credit for identifying those types of people and players that have fit, and doesn't mean it always works. So I think that's part of the good fortune with that, where we've had some individuals that we've added, whether that's through the draft or through different mechanisms, but to add to the group over the years to that kind of core that's been here for a while, the Keldon, Devin, Julian, Jeremy crew, and Victor, and they have meshed on and off the court, and I think it goes a long way.
Mike?
Mitch, assuming the minutes restriction doesn't completely go away after one game, what kind of ramp-up process do you envision? How long will it be before there's no restriction for Wemby anymore?
I think that depends on what your definition of a restriction is. I think we're not at a stage where we will be unintentional with his minutes, whether that's volume over time, whether that's long stints. But, we want to make sure we learned or continue to learn from what has happened and what we've gone through. And that doesn't mean we have the answers, but I think that means we don't just say, oh, now we're back to whatever. I think we are still learning, and we want to be very, very mindful of that. That's a good question. It'll be something that Victor and I will continue to talk through and talk about. And, it's hard. He wants to play. He wants to start. He wants to finish. And wherever you put some minutes, that means you have less over there. And so, and we still have to think about what's best for the team, unfortunately. It's not, that decision can't be made in a vacuum, even though it's a very impactful and influential decision. We still have to make sure it fits with the other, rollout of who's playing with who and how that affects others.
Over here, Robert, in the second row.
Mitch, we've all seen Victor shoot fewer threes this year. You've talked about that mindset shift before. I'm just curious how you actually drill and instill something like that on the court and off of it to make sure, in the flow of action, old instinct doesn't take over. How do you actually practice shifting that mindset?
Number two.
There's a few different ways. I think, again, part of it has been his intentionality of being more efficient and being, forceful around the rim. I think that's also been a byproduct of him getting stronger and working on his body. I think it's a great reflection of our development staff and our assistant coaches in terms of continuing to work and partner with him on understanding your spots, and these are openings, and this is how you can take advantage, and when they're trying to be physical, here's something to combat them, et cetera, et cetera. And I think part of it also is he hasn't played with some of these guys that are going to live in the paint, as we've seen with some of our handlers, and that may open up some more threes. So I don't think we are at the final stage or end line of this is how he's going to play.
On the left, Jared.
Hey, man. Last game was a good example of how Vic can kind of just shoot over anybody, anywhere, anytime. And, the great players, their great advantage is they can just get you out of any situation, right? So what are you learning about what Victor's capable of as far as just kind of shooting out of or passing out of any situation? And how is this offense evolving over time, and how do you see it evolving over time to take advantage of that?
I think there will be moments where we want to get him the basketball in certain spots, in certain environments and actions, and there will be times where those decisions will be made for Victor to terminate the possession, which typically means he's shooting the shot or has caused enough multiple bodies and crowds around himself that hopefully his teammates should be getting a good shot, whether that's in a one pass or even at times it can be a swing or two passes out. But there will be that, and that'll be just time. That's just something where you're trying to provide a landscape that has pristine spacing that puts the defense in a bind where they can't guard him with multiple people and get back to the rest of the people on the basketball court. And that's where, over time, if we can get our proper starting spots, that's a build-out that takes real pattern recognition and just on-the-job training. And I think he's proven that he's shown some improvement there when he's gotten the ball in some of those areas, and some of it's just playing in the flow of the game. I think we've seen when we don't stall ourselves out by trying to be stubborn on getting one person the ball or trying to watch one person play, our offense has been more dynamic. And so it'll be a balancing act of that, which, again, every great player is, because you want them to be able to leave their imprints on the game at certain times, but you also want to make sure that you're hard to guard, and typically being hard to guard means the defense is chasing the pass and having to guard 5 people.
Tim, here on the right.
Just so you know, on the starter issue, Vic was very interested the other night to find out if you could win MVP and 6-man in the same year. Just so you know. How do you kind of marry the concepts in your mind that it's a big game tomorrow and you're playing for a trophy, and at the end of it you're going to be 18-7 no matter what happens? How do you sort of balance those two elements?
Honestly, it's a good question. I wasn't sure until we got to kind of where we are, and I don't think we balance it. I think we go in tomorrow and we're trying to win the NBA Cup, and that's the approach. And afterwards, that is what it is, but our guys are really, really excited to be here. They've been excited since the start of it. Our first game at home, sometimes, it feels like just the court looks different. You're not really sure. And then over time, I think we've seen our group really embrace the cup, and we've earned the right to be here, and I think we're going to attack the game tomorrow and be really fired up to try to go win it.
Mark in the back left.
Hey, Coach, Mike's part of the coaching fabric of the Spurs, Mike Brown. I don't know if you had a chance to get to know him during your tenure there. I just wanted to see if that was the case, and just what do you think about his career, and if anything you've learned from him?
We did not overlap, but obviously we have a lot of common people, because the Spurs have had the fortune to have some good people that have been there throughout the years. I've had some interactions with Coach Brand over the years. He's obviously had tremendous success at different spots and different types of teams, and so it has been something that I have tried to study and steal from, as we do with all the good coaches. And I'm not doing anything new or reinventing anything. So when you see sustained success, there's something to learn from. That may not mean that it's applicable for yourself or your current team, but I think he's always been very organized and very prepared, and been able to have success at different stops on the way. So that's something that I've tried to follow and have a pulse of.
Thank you, Coach. De'Aaron's on his way. All right. We'll take questions around the room. Please raise your hand. Rachel here in the front.
Well, I wasn't going to start with this, but sure. What's your take on how much experience a team needs to get to be considered a real contender? Do they need playoff experience, for example? Like, do they need, what do you think a team needs to do to really actually be a contender for a championship in this league?
Yeah, I definitely think you need some playoff experience. I don't know the last time a team's gone from not making the playoffs and then winning a championship the next year. So for us, we know that this is a process, though. We're going day by day, step by step, to try to win a championship. And if we can do it this year, that would be fantastic, make history. But like I said, we know that this is a long process. We're continuing to get better. Some would say we're a little ahead of schedule, but I think we're right where we need to be.
Back right.
Hi. Dylan Harper has an amazing family heritage when it comes to basketball, mom and dad. How do you see that every day on and off the court as a mentor yourself?
I mean, definitely on the court, like, you know, a 19-year-old and just the feel that he has for the game, you can just tell that, you know, someone was teaching him how to play basketball. Yeah, I don't know if it was his dad, his mom's big in basketball, but you really see his feel for the game that just not a lot of 19-year-olds have. But he's a pro. I mean, I don't know how many rookies, you know, besides I would say like Luka and like Paolo, and then Donovan Jason, like that came in the league and is just able to affect the game the way that he does. And I think he does it on both ends of the court. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does defensively. But he's been fantastic for us in basically every game that he's played.
On your left.
De'Aaron, to piggyback off of Rachel's question, you picked San Antonio. You wanted to be here. Are you, as an organization, ahead of where you thought the Spurs would be at this point?
I don't know if I don't think so, because, I mean, I thought Steph would take a leap. You know, we thought Vic would take a leap. And then I just felt like me being here, knowing the foundation and knowing everything that I know at the beginning of the season, I felt like we were going to be good from day one. Obviously, coming in last year, you know, you're trying to learn as many plays as you can in, you know, 2 days before you have to get out there and play. And then obviously injuries hit us as well, and injuries have hit us this year as well. But you know, signing Luke and drafting Dylan and like all the things that we've done outside of what we had coming in this year have made us a much better team. So I wouldn't really say that I'm surprised at where we are.
De'Aaron,
Back left. Go ahead.
I know you said playoff experience is a part of getting to a championship, but where does an experience like the Cup sort of fall in that more than regular season, not quite official postseason? Where does this experience fall in terms of you guys building that equity?
Well, OKC won the Cup last year, right? Or did they lose in the finals? I think they lost in the finals. Yeah, I mean, and then Milwaukee's won. Like, these are teams that have won championships in the last 5 years. So some would say history is saying that getting here is pretty damn good. The Lakers, I think, won, and obviously they won in 2020 or 21, whatever it was. Last 5 years, they won a championship. So I think history's kind of showing that if you can make it to this Cup, then you can win a championship. And obviously, it's much different being in a win or lose, you know, win or go home. But at the end of the day, I think just being able to play in big games does help towards the end of the season.
Jared?
Back before the season started, we were kind of asking all you guys when you would do your press conferences, what's your goal for the season? And I don't know if you did one because you were hurt at the time, but everybody was saying, we want to make the playoffs. I think Vic was the one that said 6 seed. That looks kind of like almost in your rear view with the way you guys are playing at this point. What was your goal heading into the season? Has that changed? And is that something you guys are even thinking about at this point?
Well, whenever we talked about it, like, you know, everyone was saying playoffs, and then HB actually came in. He's like, okay, well then, you know, what does that mean? Does that mean, you know, get the 8th seed and lose in the first round? Is that a successful season? Does that mean, you know, going to the conference finals and lose? Like, what does that mean? And I think as a team, we're still figuring that out. Obviously, we want to play in the playoffs, and we want to put ourselves in position to win a championship. And obviously, that's always the goal. How many teams are true contenders? You know, most would say 3, maybe a 4th team. But for us, we're just, like I said, we're going day by day. We know that with the talent that we have in our locker room, that we are a playoff team, yes. But we have to continue to do the little things that help us become a contender.
Standing in the back left.
De'Aaron, you face the Knicks. Mike Brown is the coach, new offense. But how do you guard a player like Jalen Brunson? What's your mindset about that?
I mean, just with that team, I mean, this is a team that's been in the conference finals the last 2 years. So obviously, this is one of the best teams in the league, and this is a team that's trying to win a championship. With JB, I mean, you don't just stop Jalen. Obviously, you know, people can talk about his size or whatever it may be, but I've been playing Jalen since high school, and he's been this type of player his entire career. But you just try to slow him down. Him and Cat are obviously the focal points of that offense. You try to put size on him. You try to make him work both offensively and defensively. And for that, like, other than that, we focus on what we're doing. We go out, we try to get deflections, we try to turn teams over, we play fast. We always focus on ourselves first, and then we worry about what the other team does. Because if we do what we know we can do, we always put ourselves in position to at least be able to win a game.
On your right, Tim.
De'Aaron, just you know, the 22 Warriors and the Bubble Lakers were the last 2 to win it without going to the playoffs the year before. So It can be done.
The Warriors one doesn't count though.
In fairness, no.
If we go through the roster of the year before,
Yes.
that don't count. That doesn't count.
Fair enough. Everyone knows it wasn't just a game the other night. What was that process like coming down kind of off that and getting locked back in on this one after you win a game that way on that stage with all that attention?
I mean, like I said, like you want as many of those games as possible, and I think that's what the NBA was trying to do. Obviously, they want to make the regular season, mean something. And I think it's been great because some people don't think that it's good, but I think that it's been great. I think it makes games have more meaning, and you feel it from the players to the coaching staff. And like I said, those are the things that help you build towards the end of the year, because when you have a team that hasn't played in the playoffs, and then you get that first playoff game and the intensity, how it changes, it can hit you like a truck. It can hit you like a truck because you haven't felt that before. So being able to have this, obviously it's not going to be the exact same, but you get a little glimpse of what it could be like playing in the playoffs and the different officiating. No matter how much they say they don't officiate the games differently in the playoffs, we all have eyes and we can see it. But being able to play in as many of those games, it definitely helps you come playoff time.
Tanya, last question up front.
I might sneak in too, I'm sorry. Because I wanted to follow up on that. Have you seen, over the last few years of this event existing, have you seen players be more and more interested in seeing it as something different and something to strive for?
1,000%. At first, it was confusing to some people. I didn't know why it was confusing. It was pretty straightforward to me. But yeah, I mean, people like money. Like like it is what it is. Like that's life. People want to play for something. And in our locker room, like with the 2As and everything, like people want to win this. You can go into any locker room. If someone says they don't want to win it, they're lying. But it like I said, it gives you something to play for, and it's fun being able to go out into an environment like this and try to win a prize like that. And you continue to make history regardless of what type of championship it is. You insert your name in history. And like I said, obviously the goal for everybody is to win an NBA championship. But I think, like I said, the last couple of years, this has been a step towards it.
And that story you told earlier about Harrison asking, like, what does it mean to be a playoff team, be an 8 seed and lose in the first round? I know you said you're still figuring that out as a team, but in the moment, how do you think guys reacted to that question?
I mean, like if you're watching like a animated show and you have the question mark on top of people's heads, I think he kind of shocked people I think he kind of shocked guys whenever he said that, because whenever you're thinking about your goal, you're not thinking, there's like a you could be the 1 seed. If you lose in the first round, that is obviously a disappointing season. If you're the 8th seed and you lose in the first round, it might not be as disappointing because you weren't really, a true contender. And he's just saying, what do we really want? Like, are you okay with being the 4th seed going and then getting swept? We were a playoff team, but I don't think anybody in the locker room will be like, yeah, we had a successful season because we went in the playoffs and then just got steamrolled. So, I think he was just challenging guys, and that's been what HB has provided for us. Obviously, he's been a player that's been on a championship team and been to multiple finals. So hearing that from him, I think definitely, put a battery in guys' back, because now once he asked that, I think guys realized they didn't just want to be a playoff team. We want to go in and we want to make a statement. We want to be one of those teams that are trying to compete for a championship. So him saying that, and this was before the season even started. So I think that kind of fueled what we have going, and obviously we've had a lot of guys in and out of the rotation, and I think it's done nothing but help us.
Thank you, Dion.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Take first question in the back here on the right. Second, back row, second seat.
Bonjour Victor, tu as parlé plusieurs fois de basketball éthique ces derniers jours. Est-ce que tu peux développer un petit peu ta vision des choses sur ce point-là?
Oui, bien sûr. C'est un peu abstrait, mais on voit dans le basket moderne beaucoup de basket où s'il n'y a pas les 5 joueurs impliqués dans le système et
le danger ne vient pas de partout et c'est pas notre cas. Voilà, on joue pas beaucoup d'isolation par exemple. Les 5 joueurs sur le terrain sont une menace constamment. Voilà, je trouve simplement que c'est un basket qu'on peut décrire parfois comme old school. Et mais voilà, c'est un peu abstrait, mais c'est ma vision des choses.
Si je peux rebondir rapidement, toi tu veux être MVP, ça passe souvent par des grosses performances individuelles. Comment tu maintiens l'équilibre entre ces deux visions-là du basket?
Je trouve pas que ce soit quelque chose de très compliqué à faire parce que dans ma vision des choses, c'est les performances collectives qui en pâtissent directement dans le cas de voilà d'un focus trop individuel. Donc pour moi, c'est le meilleur joueur du monde, il fait gagner son équipe avant tout.
On the left side, Tim.
Victor, after the game the other night, you mentioned being happy to be part of a team that plays pure and ethical basketball. What do you mean by that phrase?
Great, that's exactly the question I was asked in French, so I'm just going to repeat myself. I figured. But basically, my answer is simply going to be that, in modern basketball, we see a lot of brands of basketball that don't offer much variety in the dangers they pose to the opponents. Lots of isolation, ball, and sometimes kind of forced basketball. And we try to propose a brand of basketball that can be described as more old school sometimes, the Spurs way as well. So it's tactically more correct basketball, in my opinion.
Tim, right here.
Victor, it's not the ultimate trophy in this league, obviously, but it is a trophy. And like you pointed out the other night, you guys, for the first time since you've been here, are winning much more than you lose. What winning this trophy, what step would that represent for this group if you guys got it done tomorrow?
It's not going to be a super significant step, but still a significant one, because it's a high stakes game that both teams are going to be very invested in winning. So it just shows that we are preparing and we will pass the next step for more significant games in the playoffs. But as competitors, this is the complicated explanation, but it's simple as that. As competitors, we want to win every game, and this one brings something new on the table, so we want to win it even more.
On your left, Mike.
Victor, what's your philosophy on trash talk? The other night, it seemed like you were feeling yourself a little bit. Should you have a filter, or does anything go?
No, I think you should always have. I don't know. I don't know. Having a filter, it's even a philosophical question, but trash talk, for me, can be used for two things: either disrupt the opponent or give yourself and your team more energy. Some sort of So it's some things like that on the court. You don't want to control, and you don't want to have a filter, because it goes with the flow of the game, and you're not trying to stop you. If you want to do it, as long as it doesn't hurt the team, and it's still correct in a humanly way, like you don't want to stop yourself from doing it if you're in that momentum. So I don't know, as long as it's natural and not forced. The border is of ethical and not ethical on the court is more difficult to observe.
Over here, Robert, second row.
Victor, you talked some earlier in the season about the differences in shot selection last year versus this year. If it wasn't a focus, at least thinking about that over the offseason, what's that actually look like in terms of film review and on the practice court if you're running drills to actually bring like a different shot selection mindset to the league this year?
It starts with every shot being reviewed, every single shot of every season, every game. And yeah, just a relentless focus, because in my position, being a big, the game is much more physical. the impacts are much more physical. So it's always a fight with yourself and with your opponent to keep going towards the rim and to not fade away, because it's just too easy to when you get bumped to just fade away. But always going towards the rim to get the most efficient shots, that's always a mental fight.
In the middle.
Si je me souviens bien, l'année dernière, les Bucks, ils n'avaient pas du tout célébré la victoire. Après le match, ils étaient partis direct à Milwaukee, rentrés. Il y a 2 ans, les Lakers, tout l'inverse, ils avaient fait péter le champagne.
Ah bon?
Ouais, LeBron et AD à fond dans le vestiaire. Comment toi, tu vois la chose si jamais vous gagnez? Est-ce que c'est le genre de victoire qu'on doit célébrer jusqu'à la dernière minute ou pas?
Non, je serais plutôt... Si je devais choisir, d'après ta description, je choisirais plutôt la célébration des Bucks. Parce que voilà, on est au milieu de la saison, ça ne veut pas rien dire, mais c'est pas non plus si significatif que ça de gagner ce tournoi. Donc voilà, faut rester humble tout en sachant que comme on célébrerait pas une série de playoffs, on va pas célébrer, on va pas faire péter le champagne demain soir.
We'll take last 2, Tom, and then Michael. We have the microphone coming around.
Victor, what are the conversations going to look like with you and Mitch about, whether you start tomorrow, come off the bench, and what are your thoughts on it?
It's going to be a mix of different opinions, but at the end of the day, I'm ready, and even if I will have my own opinion, it will also be based on my thoughts and the thoughts of the staff. So I just said a bunch of nothing, but basically we're going to discuss it.
Michael, last one.
Vic, I know you guys are playing the Knicks, but after a game like the other night, I'm curious as to what you think about this budding rivalry you have with OKC.
I think we're not quite there yet, but it's a good sign that people see that it's possible, because it's not like we're the second seed right now, And I don't think anybody right now can claim to have a rivalry with them in the league. They're in their own tier. But in the future, if we can, provided that they stay just as good and we reach that level, of course it'd be great to have a rivalry, because if you're at the top and you have a rivalry, it means you're in the best positions to win titles. So I'm very interested by it.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm going party where I pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA over here,